Hey, what's going on? So let's talk a little bit about that quiz that you might be having tomorrow. Just depends on when you watch this, but the quiz is going to be Friday. We got 16 words. Hopefully you have already done your vocabulary sheet and you're kind of ready for the quiz, but let's just do one more refresher before the quiz starts. You can use this to study. Ideally, you might watch this a couple times, but we're going to go over all 16 words here, talk about the definition, and give an example for each one with a sentence. And maybe you'll see some of these sentences on the quiz, or at least very similar sentences. So that's not the first word, though. Let's go back up to the first word. So the first word's right here. It's pronounced occult. Occult, it is a noun. So you might hear like an occult or the occult, but it's supernatural, mystical, magic. Usually has a bad connotation. And we'll talk about connotation in a little bit. I think connotation is the most difficult of our 16 words. So hopefully I will do a really good job explaining connotation. But occult, think of like dark magic, usually at night, maybe people doing seances, trying to make demons come to life, black cats, witches, that kind of stuff. So I think Wynn talks about her parents and they're worried that she might be dabbling in the occult. So occult, bad thing, magic. All right, the next one is garishly. And I think this picture right there of the house is a perfect example of something that is garish. It's you can see the definition right here. Flashy, offensively bright. So somebody might be wearing some garish clothes or some garish clothes. They might be dressing garishly. And as I said in that little mini lesson, garishly is an adverb. So it will describe other adverbs, adjectives, and verbs. So he was dressed garishly. It's talking about how someone was dressed. That's a verb. So garish. Very offensively bright. Maybe somebody's sweater. Growing up in the 80s, people used to have these really loud, when I'm talking loud, that was a synonym I saw on a lot of the papers. So loud, we're talking about like bright colors. So not loud as in volume. Garishly. Hope that helps. Hey, we got an ad from Main Family. I think I actually use them. I have a couple banks, but Main Family is one of them. It's actually my main bank, I think. So they're not sponsoring this video or anything. They just happen to be an ad on Quizlet. Insipid. Love this word. Boring, bland, tasteless. So if you go to a restaurant and you're paying good money for food, you don't want it to be insipid. You don't want it to be boring or tasteless. You don't want to have to add like a bunch of salt to food. And insipid is usually talking about food. Insipid, just bland. You might need some spices to spice it up. Insipid. Maybe McDonald's. I like McDonald's as much as the next person. It's horrible for you, but I think most of their food is pretty insipid, which is why they add like tons of salt. So I don't think a Big Mac is insipid though, but I think the salt helps it out. All right, the next one. Nervous about this one. Connotation. You can see the definition right here. A feeling that a word carries with it. So this is pretty difficult, I think. But if you look up a word in the dictionary, the connotation is not going to be there. The connotation comes from people using the word over time. There are a couple examples in this picture, which I will talk about in a minute. But let's talk about two words that mean almost the same thing. Smile and smirk. Smile and smirk. Smirk has a slightly negative connotation or a bad connotation. Like if somebody is smiling at you, it's probably they're happy, they're warm. But if there's a smirk, both are, the mouth is turned upward. You all had to smile for your school picture not too long ago. Hopefully you did well on that. But if you're smirking, it's a bad connotation. Underlying maybe that there's a joke or somebody is making fun of you. Smirking. Both mean such a similar thing, but bad connotation with one of them. How about this? Slender and skinny. Two words that mean thin mostly, but slender has a slightly better connotation. So if someone is described as slender, probably doesn't sound as bad as skinny. So that's what we're talking. It's very subtle. Sometimes it's hard to pick up on these connotations. You have to know the word really well. But basically, connotation is when you look up the word, the connotation is not going to be there. The connotation comes from people using that word over time. Some words get a negative connotation. Some will have a slightly more positive connotation. Hope that helps. And the next one, make it a little bigger here. I did a little mini lesson on this one yesterday. So inhumane, cruel, lacking kindness and pity, brutal. You can see this picture of this tiger being kept in a cage just barely big enough for them to stand up in. I mean, they probably can't take too many paces right there. Cruel, inhumane. Usually when we're talking about inhumane, we're talking about the treatment of either people or animals. Inhumane. That's how it's pronounced. The E at the end. Next one, self-inflicted. They did it to themselves. So you can't see it here, but I think it's the other ear. Basically, this guy, his name is Vincent van Gogh, right? He cut off his ear. He cut off his own ear. He gave himself a self-inflicted wound. So it's and inflicted. It says they did it to themselves, but inflicted has like a negative connotation. So it usually has something to do with hurting themselves. And then on those vocabulary sheets, it said that there wasn't a synonym. Remember, a synonym is a word that means the same thing. It says there wasn't a synonym on most of the online thesauruses that you might have used, but I said self-harm could be a synonym. Self-harm. So when you hurt yourself, antonym, the opposite of that word, would be like self-care. Maybe if you have a spa day and you put those cucumbers on your ears and that mask on your face or whatever, and you just are relaxing, that would be the opposite of self-inflicted. You're actually caring for yourself. Hopefully that helps. The next one, it's a lot of people had trouble with this, and I can see why. Graft, it's not used very often at all. Graft. You can see the definition. I write all these definitions, so I try to make them as user friendly as possible. This one just doesn't. I think an example would be better. So, and it's like I said, it's very rare. You don't use this word very often. Wynn talks about a baby goat, and there is a surgery that I guess doctors do or whatever veterinarians do in her world that makes goats look like unicorns, and they graft the two horns, so it creates one horn of a unicorn. But I think the most common way you will hear it is a skin graft. So we're still talking about the medical field, but we're talking about burn victims. So if someone has burns on their body and there's like little skin left or maybe no skin, it's just like tissue there. What doctors can do is like transplant skin. Sometimes it's fake skin, sometimes it's It's the own person, their own person's skin. That I think they grow it. I'm not a doctor. I think that's how it works. Maybe it's all fake skin. I'm not sure. But either way, they put this covering, this skin over the tissue so people can get a skin graft. So if people were having trouble coming up with a sentence, that was my go-to. It was like, okay, just talk about skin graft because that's where you'll hear it most commonly. The next one is vehemently. That's how it's pronounced. Vehemently. Vehemently. Marked by intense force or emotion. So let's say someone accuses you at school of damaging a locker. Maybe somebody, not you, but maybe somebody gets so mad at your locker and then they break it. But you didn't do it. And we have cameras. So eventually they'll find out. Officer Chamberlain will find out. But maybe somebody accuses you. But I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Well, yeah, we think you did. You could vehemently deny that you did it. Like, no, I didn't do it. Vehemently. Lots of emotion, lots of force. Vehemently deny. Again, this is an adjective. Sorry, this is an adverb. It ends in ly. So it is going to describe other adverbs, verbs, and adjectives. And in that sentence, he vehemently denied breaking his locker. Deny is a verb. Vehemently is describing how he denied something. Hope that helps. Adjectives, remember, they only describe nouns. So the maroon locker. Locker is a noun. Maroon is describing the color. I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds like somebody's watching TV in the next room that's swearing. Beep. Hopefully you can't hear that. I'm using my AirPods as a microphone, so hopefully it's only picking up my voice. I don't know. The next one, rapier. Careful how you say that. But it's a long, slender sword. And you all know that's not pronounced sword, right? It's sword. That may be one of our easier words, right? It's a sword. It's a sword. Some people were having trouble with the antonym. So if you ask me about the antonym, I said, well, it's kind of the opposite of slashing something or cutting. And I was thinking, well, I guess tape could be, or glue. It's not the perfect antonym, but it works. It's the opposite of a tool that might cut or stab. Maybe graft. Graft is sometimes the opposite of pulling apart. Grafting, like putting two things kind of intertwined there. Rapier, pretty easy one, right? Suppress. Now, this is a very common word, and it means, right there, to stop by force or to put down. So a couple things you could do. What if you had a cough? It's starting to be cold and flu season here pretty soon. My wife yesterday was at home. She didn't think she had COVID, but she was sneezing, coughing, all the stuff that goes along with a cold. And her principal was like, yeah, don't come to school tomorrow. You need to go get a test. Make sure you don't have the old COVID. And she did, and she didn't have it. But what she did was because she was coughing a lot, she took a cough medicine and cough drops and all that stuff, and it suppressed the cough. So if you're coughing and you take some cough drops, instead of coughing, hopefully it will put down that cough. It will suppress it. It won't be as bad. Governments, sometimes you'll hear with this, if there's an uprising, lots of rioting. We want our rights. Maybe in North Korea. Sounds like a horrible place to live. But if they ever organized and wanted to fight the government, I'm pretty sure the government would suppress that riot. They might even use force, like tanks and stuff. I don't know. Probably. What do you think? I think so. Suppress. So hopefully there are a couple examples. Might see something like that on the quiz. Suppress, to stop or put down by force. Even though I use the coughing one, cough drop's not really force, but and I think even they do call them sometimes cough suppressants. Suppressant is the noun form of suppress. It's a verb. Suppress is a verb to put down. The next one, and we have another ad for Staples. So not a sponsor. Inexonably. Inexonably. You cannot stop this. You cannot prevent it. So time marches forward inexorably. The aging process, it's going to happen inexorably. You cannot stop it. Unfortunately, each time I look in the mirror, I have more wrinkles and less hair. I wish the opposite was true, but can't stop it inexorably. Maybe I think I'll use some more. Come on. Why is that? That's distracting me. My ADD. I saw a flash there. Come on. Focus. Inexorably, there was a part in one of the Spider-Man movies where there was a train that was inexorably barreling down the tracks. Like you couldn't stop it, right? Isn't that one? Yeah, you couldn't stop it. Inexorably. So anything that can be described as an unstoppable force, you can't prevent it. I'm going to take a little water and hydrate. Call that inexorably. Jostle. Didn't look like too many people had trouble with this one on the vocabulary forms. Kind of not like huge pushing. It's usually when it says to push, shove, or bump, it's more of like the bump thing. So like slight shoves, not anything too major. People aren't going to fall down from being jostled for the most part. Let's say you order a package from Amazon. This thing is, there we go. Let's say you order a package from Amazon. I mean, it's going to get jostled a little bit in the truck and just going to have little bumps and stuff. Maybe if there's a concert, I'm actually going to a concert tomorrow night. I'm recording this on Thursday. So on Friday night, I'm going to see a band, the Trey Anastasio Band. It's a guy from Fish, probably a band you never heard of. But a lot of times when there's like a concert and people are trying to get out of the concert and going home, there's a little bit of jostling that goes on. There's only so many exits and everybody's trying to streamline into there. Sometimes we call it a bottleneck. When there's a whole bunch of things trying to get into a small opening, it might be a bottleneck. People are jostling, a very small opening. If you've ever been to New Hampshire on a Sunday night in the summer, luckily, there is definitely a bottleneck. That's not one of our words, but bottleneck. You hope there's no jostling because we're talking about cars here. You don't really want them bumping or pushing or shoving. Probably damage the car, and then you have a really big backup behind it. But it can get pretty hard to get out of Maine on a Sunday night. Pretty hard to get into Maine on a Friday night. Jostle. What? I can remove ads. $4. Maybe I should start a GoFundMe page. Help me get that $4 a month. Warbling. We got like 4 more left. Warbling. This only happens when there is a different sound. Sometimes higher notes, sometimes softer notes. So people can warble, or where I hear it most commonly is when birds are singing. There's a bit of warbling. So little up and down pitches. Pretty straightforward there. That's a verb. Yeah. The bird was making a warbling sound in the early morning. Hope that one helps. Bleating. I've actually heard people in class use this now. And I think this one probably is not too bad now that we know it, but it's basically like the sound a sheep or a goat might make, bleating, or a unicorn might make. So I'm not going to do it, but I'm sure you've heard the goat. Luckily, we haven't had too many people do that in class. If 20 people are making bleating noises, it could be a little obnoxious, I think, especially to the people around us. So thank you for not making bleating noises. The next one, very rare also, but it was mentioned in Baby Kill Unicorn, a nunnery. A nunnery. There's a line in Shakespeare, get thee to a nunnery. But a nunnery, it's where nuns live. If you're not familiar with nuns, I think it's just the Catholic religion. Catholic, that's a type of Christian religion. And there are priests. I think if it's Catholic, they have to be a guy. And then if it's a nun, it has to be a woman. That's for Catholics, though. But I think other religions, you might have priests who are women. I don't know about nuns who are guys, though. Nuns. You can see, if you've ever seen people that look like that, they wear, this is called a habit, by the way. It's called a habit. Some people may have a habit of overeating. I'm guilty of that sometimes. But this is a different kind of habit. She's wearing a habit. I assume that's a she. I shouldn't assume their gender, though. Just they're people there, but they might be wearing habits. They are. And is this the last one? Okay, monologue. We talked about this in I think every class. Mono means one, so you can have a train. If it's only has one rail, call it a monorail. I think they have it in Disney World or Disneyland. I get them mixed up. I don't have enough money to visit either one. I wish I did. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe page for that. Get Mr. Watson to Disney World or something. That would be a crazy GoFundMe when so many people need other things. Yeah, let's not start that one. Give to a better charity, if somebody needs a transplant. But a monologue, log, has something to do with speaking. Okay, so dialogue, two people or more are speaking. A monologue is when only one person is speaking. And Summer was in the car and she was just blabbing, talking, not really letting Wynn or Eves talk. Summer was having a monologue with herself. So only one person speaking, but you'll often hear this about a play. I mentioned Shakespeare in the last one. So Shakespeare, kind of famous playwright. Hopefully you've heard of that guy, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet. Sometimes there will be an actor that just has a bunch of lines, maybe over a couple pages. We call that a monologue. All right, 22 minutes. But I promise you, if you watch this, you're going to nail the quiz. If you watch it twice, well, you're going to lose 40 minutes out of your life. But I think it's 40 minutes well spent. Or maybe watch it once. You've gotten to this part in the video already. And then if there are any questions about the other words, just watch that little piece there. All right. Hope this helps.